So in today's video, I'm going to be giving you my pattern review of the Simplicity S9373, which is a misses cardigan pattern, and it comes in sizes 2X small to 2XL. So you have 4 different variations for this. So view A, so all these variations have a drop shoulder, and the drop shoulder is quite dropped. So on my first variation, I didn't raise the drop shoulder. However, I shortened the sleeve by 1.5 inches. And then I thought to myself, I need to raise the drop shoulder at least 1 inch. So on the first variation, I made it with a chenille fabric that I purchased from Hobby Lobby. And this fabric is so soft, and I have not been able to find a fabric like this that I wanted to have and to make something with. I've been looking all over to have a fabric like this, and I absolutely love this fabric. But let me tell you about the different patterns that you get, and then I'll tell you more about the fabric choices and all that stuff that I went with. So view A is your long style cardigan. So this is the longer cardigan, and this one drops down past your knees. It's almost like a midi type cardigan. You have pockets on the front, and then you also have these wide sleeve cuffs on the sleeve. For view B, you have the shorter band. So it's not a wide cuff, it's just a small short band that you can put on the edge of your sleeve as well. Again, you have your drop shoulder, and this is going to be your cardigan that is like at the lower thigh. So it hits around that lower thigh, just above your knee. It's about maybe 4, maybe 5 inches above your knee. All of the cardigans have a band around the neckline, and you have buttons that go down the center front, and you're sewing 6 buttons down the center front of the garment. So for this one, I would definitely say make sure that you have a 60-inch wide fabric, like a 55 to a 60-inch wide fabric, because the sleeve pattern is very, very big. And like I said, you have like a slouching sleeve there. And then this one also, view C, you have a longer cuff. View D is the short version, and I think it's almost like a crop style version. And you also you're putting elastic at the end of the sleeve, which I think is really odd for a sweater or like a sweater type cardigan. Like if you're doing like a ITY, because it does call for ITY, interlock knit fabrics, double knit fabrics, jersey, modal. Like if you're using like a modal or something like that, I think that maybe an elastic would be okay. But for something like a sweater knit fabric, or a chenille fabric or anything like that, I think to have an elastic in the cuff of that probably wouldn't look so well. But anyway, so I chose view B, which is the version that is longer. It's longer than your mid thigh, but it's right above your knee. So I did that. And then it has the band going around the neckline, and it also has the drop shoulder. And with that variation, I didn't put a cuff or sleeve or anything on that variation either. I found with that variation, because I was working with the chenille fabric, it had enough stretch on the cross grain, but it didn't have enough stretch on the lengthwise grain. And the pattern instructs you to put your band on the lengthwise grain. And so I didn't have like enough stretch. Wait, I think that was the issue that I had. Yes, because the pattern is very, very long. You do have to stretch, because the band is shorter than the length of the garment. So you do have to stretch in between different points. I would definitely say make sure that you include the markings on your garment. Yeah, just make sure that you do all that, because you will need that so that you can stretch the band in place, because the band is shorter than the length of the front and the back bodice. So just make sure that you do that. Like I said, with the chenille version, because I didn't have enough stretch on the lengthwise of the grain, I tried to do it on the cross grain. But because the chenille has a nap, well, it's really hard to explain. So it didn't have a nap going from the vertical direction, but from the horizontal direction, you can definitely tell that it would be different than the vertical direction. And since I had more scratch on the cross grain, which is the horizontal direction of the fabric. I wanted to put the neckband pattern piece on the cross grain instead of the lengthwise of the grain, because I had more scratch on the cross grain than I had on the lengthwise of the grain. But the lengthwise of the grain had a different nap than the crosswise of the grain. I hope you can follow all of that. And so I was a little bit hesitant to do it that way because I didn't want it to stand out on the actual garment itself and look very, because when something has a nap and you sew two different pieces opposite of each other, you can actually see that. And so I was really nervous to sew the band on. And so anyway, long story short, that garment did not turn out 100% as I had intended. I did go into the project sewing that specifically for my daughter because she loved the fabric. She wanted one of these cardigans, and that was something that I wanted to give to her for this season. And I was able to make it work, but because of the type of fabric that it is, and I had issues with the band because I had to place the pattern piece on the crosswise instead of the lengthwise, I decided not to put buttons on the center front of that garment because I didn't want to ruin it or to scratch the band out or make it stand out even more so than what it already is standing out because of the nap and things like that. So I decided not to put the buttons on there. And so it turned out really lovely. My daughter really loves it. And I'll go ahead and put some pictures here and so you can see what it looks like. So that was the first one that I made. The second one I also made view B. And both this version here that I'm wearing, which is mine, and then the other variation with the chenille fabric that I made for my daughter, both have pockets on the front. So I decided to put pockets on the front. But for view C and D, as you can see, you don't have to put the pockets on the front. It's showing it without the pockets. So, but I did put the pockets on the front for both. I do think that if you are going to be putting pockets on your cardigan, and you're going to be using a fabric that's similar to that chenille fabric, I would definitely say get a walking foot. And so a walking foot is, if you're new to sewing and you don't really know anything about walking foots, basically it's this little foot here that you could put on your machine. So I have a Singer, so this is like specifically like for Singer machines, but you can get a walking foot. I think they're pretty standard for pretty much all machines, but they're kind of expensive. They're like $30, I think, but it is really helpful for working with certain types of knit fabrics that have a hard time going through your machine, like because it sometimes can catch on your feed dogs or whatever, or it just kind of gets stuck or whatever. But walking foots are really great for that. And then also other materials too, like you can use it for leather or denim. It just makes it really easy for you to push that fabric through your machine as you're sewing. So I would definitely say get a walking foot, and that will be really helpful for you to finish your project. But anyway, so for this version here, for this second version here, I also did view B. I also had to omit the buttons going down the center front because I messed up on the band on this one, and I forget what I did, but I messed up on the band, and I had at this point, when I realized I messed up on the band, I had to cut away the seam allowance that was on the band. So as you can see here, I serged the inside of my band. And when I did that the first time and I realized I made a mistake, I had to cut off the serging stitches to get to the regular stitches so that I can take the band off and correct my mistake. And when I did that, I lost a lot of seam allowance. It made it so that my neckband was too narrow for buttons. So see, it's just way too narrow. So I decided not to worry about the buttons. And I was really sad about that because I have these really cool copper buttons that I had planned to use with this. I think that it is true to size for the most part. If you want an oversized cardigan, you might want to do like a size up. which that's what I did. So for the chenille version that I made for my daughter, that was a size small. And for this one, I made it with a size medium. I did make changes to this one. I felt like I needed to make a forward shoulder adjustment, and I think I made the adjustment too forward. And so next time I will pull that back a little bit. But other than that, I think that is a really cozy cardigan. I really like it. I did say that I was going to share with you all the sleeves, and let me show you what the sleeves look like. Okay, so this is the sleeve pattern review A. So, at the moment it is together and I stitched it. So it is a wider pattern. So think of this as being doubled for the pattern, like it when it's opened. And then I closed it together and I sewed it down the side. And what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to turn it like this, because it's like a cuff. And as you can see, it's really big. And then you're supposed to put the cuff here at the edge of the sleeve like that. I don't know if you can see that, but you're supposed to put the cuff at the edge of the sleeve and turn it back kind of like that. But I just thought that it was just like way too big and way too bulky at the end. And I didn't like it. I thought it was just too big. And so I decided not to put that cuff on. And I just turned back my sleeve here. I serged the end and then I turned back the sleeve and I stitched it in place with a zigzag stitch. You can't really see the stitches because I used matching thread. But that's basically what I did to my cuff because I didn't like it. And then for the bottom of the cardigan, again, I was having problems stitching it in place, even with the walking foot, because it just kept sticking like to the pressure, the feed dogs. And so I decided to just go ahead and hand stitch. So I had to hand stitch my cardigan. So I actually serged the lower edge and then I turned it under. I think it has like a 1 1/4 inch hem, and then I hand stitched it in place. And so it turned out lovely. I like it. I think it's really warm and it's suiting for the time. And I think in the future, if I make this, I definitely want to make a version with buttons going down the center front. I'm sad that I wasn't able to do that. But I definitely would like to make one with buttons going on the center front. While you're at it, go ahead and check out Denise's channel. She goes by So Limitless. And she made this just recently and she gave her pattern review of it as well. So go ahead and check out her pattern review and look at the beautiful cardigan that she just made. I think it is such a beautiful cardigan and I absolutely love her variation as well. If you like this pattern review, go ahead, give me a big thumbs up. If you made this pattern, let me know what your experience was like and if you like the pattern, and I will see you all in the next video.